So it's one of those guys.
Right. Michael McGowan, this is a good question. It's a good transition to the final topic of the show. And we're going to go deeper into BYU on Thursday. So you're going to want to listen to that for the BYU talk. But sensing a lot more confidence from you, was Marshall just an anomaly, or are there still significant concerns? Seems like O-line and running game are much better. So here's my take on this. And I was thinking about this coming out of the bye week, right? So this is Marcus Freeman's first bye. And he's got to navigate that and that sort of thing. And so that's kind of open question. Like, how is Notre Dame going to respond coming out of the bye? They were playing good football, obviously, going into it. And my take is, to me, the Marshall game is the Ohio State and Marshall game. Notre Dame defensively, they played fine. Offensively, it was a mess, frankly. They didn't play well in either of those games on offense, and they played poorly. And if they have since rebounded, they rebounded a bit against Cal, especially in the second half. And then obviously they look great against North Carolina. It's time for me. It's time they need to start okay, it's time to be a good football team. It'd be one thing. Like, I think if Notre Dame was like 3-1, if they had beaten Marshall and they had played, well against, played okay against Cal, like the same way, played well against North Carolina, I could see this BYU game being a little bit dicey, just because I could feel like Notre Dame would feel like they're kind of above them, right?
Yeah.
Just didn't take them as seriously. But since you lost to Marshall, and since you also then didn't look great against Cal early, it's like you've already messed around. And played bad football. So now it's like I don't want to see like a bad performance at this point would just be, I don't want to say unacceptable, but it would be unacceptable. Like, it's time to be a good football team. Okay. It's time to start building off of, what you did against North Carolina, what you did in the second half against Cal. BYU is a good team. Okay. They're good. They have a good quarterback. They have good receivers. They're not terrible in any way, except for maybe run blocking, but they can pass block. Their defense isn't great. It's not horrible. Linebackers are pretty good. Secondary's okay. Good. Nice little team, right? Nice team, right? Probably overrated, but that's fine. It doesn't really matter. But like a good Notre Dame team that's playing well, they should handle BYU, right? And that's what I think needs to happen. Like, they can't – you can't say, they were kind of due for a bad game. No, they already had their bad games. Bad games are in the past, right? Against a team like this, they should play well and they should look good. And that's kind of my expectation. So I guess that's confidence going up. But what do you think, Jamie?
Yeah, and I think as you kind of as you look at where Notre Dame's at and where they've improved and things that they can build on and kind of like learning about their identity, I think you learn more about these other teams too. And what you kind of learn about like BYU is that in every team that they're playing the rest of the way is that every team is flawed. Like Notre Dame isn't playing Ohio State again, and even Ohio State's got some flaws. They don't have many, but they have a little, some snuck in there. But like some of these other teams have like big flaws, and BYU's got a couple of big flaws that can be exploited, right? And I think you saw that in the Baylor and the Oregon games, right? With the two best teams they played. And Baylor, as you learn too, they're not that good. And that game went to overtime on the road for Baylor, right? Like, I think that like this is a game like if Notre Dame plays like they did against North Carolina, I think they'll beat BYU by double digits, right? But I don't know that Notre Dame, if the standard is going to be high every week. We don't know that yet. But I think Notre Dame is going to be they're an ascending team and going to get better. And I think now the floor is higher than it was because we've seen where they can get to. So I think, I mean, I don't think many people are going to pick, even though it could be a tight game. I don't think many people are going to pick Notre Dame to lose this game, and I certainly won't.
I agree with that.